I'm Otto Carter. I'm an engraver from Abilene, Texas. I've been engraving for about 20 years.
My name is Rob Biankin. I'm the founder and CEO of Cabot Guns. We're a boutique producer of precision pistols made in America, all from scratch. And some of the things we're known for is working with really exotic materials, but also working with some of the greatest craftsmen in the world. And that includes engraving, such as the unique style and type of engraving that Otto Carter brings to some of our one of a kind and limited edition pistols. In this episode of Portrait of a Craftsman, we're going to feature Otto Carter, an American engraver based in Abilene, Texas, who does some really unique and specialized engraving on our guns. We're going to take a look at his history, his legacy, his inspiration, and the forms that he produces. Let's jump into it.
Before I conceptualize an idea, I like to have a cup of coffee or two or three. I like to think to myself, what can I do with this project that will make it more of an expression of what I'm about? One thing that distinguishes my work from others is the many ways that I'm influenced by different styles. I like to have a good deal of resource material handy that I can look at and go through and just pull some ideas from. What I ultimately do with these different types of designs is I create a formula, and that's where I would say the background is going to have this look to it. The main subjects are going to be derived from this motif or this style or this ethnic pattern. I just kind of let the design flow out on its own on the paper. I mean, sometimes if I just have the elements of this formula, I just pick up my pencil and start sketching with it, and sometimes I'm surprised with how it turns out. So that sort of describes the creative process. Early on, like 1980, I was about 18 years old. I went to work for a sign painter. I really was intrigued watching this old guy paint signs. I thought, that looks like fun. I'd like to do that. I got a job there, sweeping floors and eventually rolling out sign backgrounds, and just gradually started increasing my skills to where I could simply do brush lettering, just basic brush lettering. And then I was given the responsibility of doing design work on my own. I mean, he kind of let me take the reins, and that was quite a learning curve to get to that point. One of the best mediums I'm known for in engraving is the 1911 pistol. And the past few years I've done several projects with Cabot, and Cabot Guns provides a very high quality piece to work on. They are very high-end 1911 pistols. The first pistol I engraved for Cabot was called Pandemonium, and it was done in a aesthetic movement of the Victorian era style. There's a notable lack of obvious continuity, which is a radical approach compared to anything in traditional engraving. But I think it's fascinating, informed by Asian, Moorish, Italian, and other cultural influences, which are drawn from the furthest reaches of the British Empire. It had a very complex background and quite a few interesting elements working throughout the composition. My approach to the Pandemonium project was to root it in the aesthetic movement of the Victorian era. So I looked at quite a few books with motifs of various kinds and borrowed some elements from that to include in the overall composition. And I wanted to stay away from traditional scrolls on this project. So I broke it up with a lot of kind of linear banners, some leaf elements, and different patterns that are just kind of dispersed throughout the composition. When I begin a project like that, it all starts with a paper and pencil. And I probably had 30 hours just in conceptualizing it and drawing it and doing all the prep work before I ever started engraving on it. I probably had 200 hours in that pistol. And I would say most of that was from the intricate background. You can't really tell from just looking at it, but it has what I call a prismatic background, which is something I made up, I came up with. And it was an experiment on that one, and I thought, we'll see if this looks good. So after, spending probably 100 hours just cutting tiny little lines for this prismatic background, that's what I ended up with. And it was a good looking finished product. So I was pleased with that. And I went on to use that with the Sacramonte pistol. Yeah, the second gun I engraved was we called it the Legend of Sacramonte. That title comes from the Moorish design implemented in the composition of the piece. That particular piece has a lot of gold inlay. Actually, there's over 7 feet of gold wire in the slide of that pistol alone to make up the gold inlays. It also has a prismatic background, which is made up of just thousands of little lines that kind of grab the light and reflect it in different directions. And there's also, in contrast to the gold, some raw stainless scroll work that shows in kind of an alternating pattern going through the Moorish borders on that piece. And then on the frame, there's elements of the interlocking star shapes that you see in a lot of Moorish grill work. Yeah, it's just a study in Moorish motifs. On some of the smaller parts, like grip safeties, slide release, different small pieces like that, I like to throw in some surprises of different designs that are kind of related but may may have a different flair to them. The grips on the pistol are Damascus, forged by Jason Morrissey, and then Cabot machined them into grips to fit the pistol. They're just a real neat accent. The Sixth Commandment, that was kind of a angels and demons, heaven and hell kind of theme. The frame of the pistol, since it's the lower part of the pistol, had to deal more with hellish symbolism. And the top of the pistol, the slide, had more heavenly type imagery. And I borrowed some of the imagery from cemetery statuary involving angels and other sculptural influenced motifs. At the top of the slide, there's a big Gothic window, and the window parts are inlaid gold. And I hammered the gold in such a way where it reflects light differently. So that was a neat technique. On the front of the pistol is a barrel bushing, and the images on the front of the barrel bushing are derived from the cherubim from the Ark of the Covenant, where their wings come together and touch. So that's on the front. And then on the back, on the grip safety, in contrast to that, are bat wings. So that's more of a hellish looking motif. On the very bottom of the frame are some hellish images from Doré that I used. And one thing about this pistol that makes it unique, it's mostly carved instead of engraved. So there's a lot of sculpting and real deep cutting and modeling of all the forms that make up the images on the pistol. Then going across the slide is a banner that says, "Thou shalt not kill," which is the Sixth Commandment. On the Sixth Commandment, I wanted to make a statement. I wanted to tell a story. With the title, "Thou shalt not kill," going across the slide of the pistol, I wanted people to think, is this irony? Is it confusion? I just wanted to make people think. The Blue Scorpion was a pretty unique project because I had to deal with some existing elements on the frame that we wanted to blend into a sort of a rough motif that actually came from some of my surroundings, like cactus and plant roots and just organic rough shapes like that. And then there's the surprise of once you roll the pistol around, you see this scorpion that's engraved into the piece. So it adds a nice surprise to it. The next gun I engraved for Cabot was a one-of-a-kind piece called Nouveau, and the title comes from the designs from the Art Nouveau movement. And on this particular one, the approach I took was doing the overall composition from an aesthetic movement concept where I break the shape of the slide and the frame up into different squares. And then within each square, I put a totally unique Art Nouveau element in. So it's very broken up when you first look at it, but the pattern unifies it all, and plus they are similar styles even though each square is unique. Around every corner there's like a surprise to where you can see a different element every time you move the gun around. Like when you flip it over, there's a Art Nouveau style peacock on the dust shield. Underneath the trigger on the frame is some Art Nouveau scroll work. But one of the best parts about the piece is the grips. And it's like an orchid that has layers of scroll behind the flower that are textured. So it's like 3 different levels of shapes there just on the grips themselves. This pistol is a good example of why you have to have this piece in your hands to experience what's really going on throughout the gun, because as you turn the piece around, you can see a surprise around every corner. And kind of like my sculpture teacher taught me years ago, a good sculpture can't be captured with one photograph. You have to get it from multiple angles to really appreciate it. The next project, which I call Fountainhead, started from a conversation between Rob and me about what are we going to do next. And I have been toying with the idea of putting together a piece that was influenced by 2 of my favorite architects who actually worked together, that being Louis Sullivan and Frank Lloyd Wright. Frank actually studied under Sullivan. When I look at Sullivan's work, and by the way, he's considered the father of the modern skyscraper, but the unique thing about his buildings is even though the basic shape of them were very plain and rectangular, the ornate aspects, motifs, and different things included on the areas around doorways and windows and corners was just the most ornate, hard to describe scroll work I've ever seen. So I studied and studied, trying to get inside the mind of Sullivan to just figure out where he was coming from. So if I were to try to copy or reproduce anything like his, how would I go about it? And I still don't have it figured out, but I made an attempt to, and fortunately, Cabot liked the idea of doing a gun in this style. I picked up the pencil and paper and started composing things, and that's what I came up with. One of the things that challenged me about this project with Fountainhead in doing Sullivan's designs was knowing that I have not seen anybody engrave in this style before, and I wanted to explore that. One of the cool things about this next project was it was an open-ended request from Rob, allowing me to do whatever I felt like I was interested in at the time. Man, the Louis Sullivan Fountainhead idea just immediately popped into mind, and we went with it, and Rob gave me total artistic license and freedom to do what I wanted to with it, and it was really fun.
Otto, we've done some crazy projects over the year. So today I'm bringing you a new project, and sometimes your work, our work, it started with an idea or something you're passionate about. Mm-hmm. This time it's an idea I'm bringing to you.
Okay.
So about 5 years ago, I was at the Tucson Gem and Mineral Show. I came across a dinosaur bone dealer. And like we've done dinosaur bone in the past, but this time I found a guy who had 2 pieces of T-Rex, Tyrannosaurus Rex. And what I was able to procure were 2 pieces. One was the top of a femur, so it's a round part about this big, and then a vertebrae. But we sliced up the bulbous part of the femur, and when I first acquired it, okay, super cool material, but the exterior didn't look remarkable. It looked like a weathered bone, like you might imagine. But then when we cut it, it became way more interesting than we anticipated.
Okay.
So here it is. Check that out.
Wow.
What I thought was really cool, and this might have been luck, as the bones absorb minerals and their surrounding.
Yeah.
The texture turned out where, to me, it almost looks scaly.
Yeah.
Like something like I might have imagined the exterior of a T-Rex might actually look like. From that material, we were able to slab out and make enough slabs where the yield was only 3 sets of grips.
Oh man.
So it's going to be limited. Here's the first one.
Okay.
Quickly safety check it. And of course, we had to incorporate some strategic details on our part from a construction standpoint. Because these are be very special guns, we created custom serial numbers.
Yeah.
So this one, as you can see, is T-Rex 1, and there'll be a T-Rex 2 and a T-Rex 3. You know, it was too perfect not to incorporate a design detail that is unique to Cabot, which we used on another gun called our Draco Guerra. And at the time, these swoosh marks that you see where the cocking serrations go were designed and envisioned at that time as almost like claw marks from a raptor. Right. So it was the perfect detail to put as cocking serrations on the gun. I thought a very nice template for your work as an engraver to keep the rest of the area available as real estate for engraving. So here's what you're working with. Okay. And I thought today maybe we can talk about some ideas on where we can go with this.
Right.
So first of all, thoughts on the grips?
I'm thinking we ought to have something that goes with the pattern and texture that's in the grip. Something that accentuates it, and just put it on there and see what happens. Well, look at that, it fits.
Should.
Yeah. Okay. When I think about a T-Rex and you know, a texture or a pattern or something associated with that, I'm thinking scales and claws.
For sure.
And all that kind of motif, if you want to call it that.
Yeah, so I like the idea, you know, embellishing some corner areas, right?
Right.
And I certainly want to bring in some of the shape of the elements within the T-Rex grips, right?
Yeah,
to carry over the gun. And my thoughts are we can take that and incorporate maybe coloration, like from the relic and the SOB,
right? Which
kind of brings in, like, if you look at the grips, there's some really cool green undertones. And in the finishing, I think we can highlight as part of the pistol. So giving it like a scaly texture that might imagine like what the exterior of a dinosaur or a T-Rex off of that flow would be super cool. Yeah.
You want me to draw some ideas I have for the little corner details and stuff? Or?
Yeah, sure. And you know, I am aware of, you know, some of the raptor type scroll you've done in the past, right?
Right.
Which, you know, might be the perfect project to
like
incorporate some of that element.
Yes. Let me just draw some things directly onto the piece and kind of give you an idea of what I have in mind. On this area here, I like to have it arch back this way, so this would be our initial turn, and I'll probably have it fade up out of this pointed area, and then it would gradually make into a claw shape right here. And then they would have the details that almost give it a snake or reptilian kind of feel to it.
Oh, I'm definitely feeling that, Otto.
And then to fill in this space, I'd come up with another claw. Does that make sense?
Oh, totally. And I like the whole motion from the claw mark over into that.
Yeah, it does kind of flow through it.
What are you thinking in terms of like a texture type of pattern? You know, frame, slide.
I would orient the pattern. It needs to have a direction. You know, like with the grip, the flow of the texture, it sort of goes vertically with the grip, but we might want to take the direction of the scales. I like to go this way with the pistol. See? Just like if it were a snake, the head would be here.
Right.
And the tail would be here. But one thing I was thinking about on this one, and it would make it look more lifelike, instead of doing the scales just straight up on like a perfect grid, you know, like that. It's not very lifelike, it's not very interesting.
Yeah, we definitely wanted to be organic.
So
right?
I would have it almost like a stretched net to where the scales go big to small and big, just like it's wrapping around a real animal's body, you know. So it would make it a lot more interesting, a lot more lifelike. If it were a grid, it would get smaller and then bigger. See? So the scales would be small and get bigger as they go up. Yeah, that's how I would do it. See, it kind of gives another dimension.
We are in the right direction there, Otto. This is going to be fun.
Yeah.
Like there's an opportunity to engrave the back of the grip safety, right? And let's definitely carry over some cool stuff in there.
Yeah.
Well, fantastic, Otto. I can't wait to see this evolve and materialize, and this is going to be another good one.
Yes, it will.
Yeah, working with really fun and cool materials is definitely, you know, one of the things we're all about at Cabot. And certainly making grips out of T-Rex has to be one of the most badass things we've ever done. This engraving project that we're talking about today will be for 3 guns, because there's enough grips to make 3 pistols. And today we are in May 2023. It's been 5 years since acquisition of the materials to making the grips. The engraving will be several months from now. So I expect we'll be able to have 3 T-Rex pistols completed, and perhaps for presentation, and which will be available in early 2024. Can't wait.
In addition to the one-of-a-kind guns I do for Cabot, I also do some limited edition ones. The first pistol we did in the limited edition series was called SOB. And that was based off of a prototype we did called Relic. And that led to Son of Relic. And they were both finished in what I call a Relic patina. It had kind of a mottled brownish finish, which was quite a departure from the high polished typical finishes you see on a Cabot. So this had a nice contrast to that. The first limited edition was really well received. So after that we did a different iteration of it that we called SOB 2.0. And it still had a Germanic based theme, but it was varied a little bit. And on these limited editions, one thing about the styles in the limited edition series is, even though they may be in a Germanic style, each iteration of that style varies quite a bit, and I change it up by breaking up the patterns with borders and just making each one unique, even though it may be in the same vein of style. The next pistol I did for Cabot in the limited edition series was a piece we called SOB Raven. And it has a totally different style to it. It was sort of an experiment, a challenge to me design-wise to do. It was something I derived from looking at 1800s ephemera, and which is printed material from the Victorian era. I noticed some of the embellishments that were kind of space fillers on some of the artwork that I would see. And I thought, well, that would make a unique scroll to work from. So I developed my own rendition of it. I mean, it's really nothing like what you see from those printed items, but I just took bits and pieces of it and adapted it to gun scrolls, and sure enough came up with a very unique style that we ended up calling Raven. Relic series, with its patina finish and unique design, was so well received that we thought we would do another rendition of it for the Gun of the Month program. I just took it to a whole nother level and created some designs in it that were quite unique, but still had the antique Victorian flair to it. And yeah, that was just a total experiment from every aspect. Anyway, along with the new set of grips, it really had a nice look to it. Axon, that was a mistake on my part, and I couldn't stop messing with it, and you turned it into a one of a kind, and it was killer. That's one of the craziest ones out there with the sun rays coming through. I mean, I've never seen anything like it. And you know, I got the idea on those rays on the Axon from Sixth Commandment, because I did those rays behind the statue on the slide. I thought, man, that's a cool effect. Yeah, I want to do something bigger with it. And that's what Axon came into. But I remember I know, the assignment was to match something to those grips you sent. And I totally went left field on it. You know, totally went left field on it.
Yes,
it's like, all right, here, deal with this.
What's that?
La Arabesque is more of a traditional, very florid style of engraving. It has large leaf elements in it, and it has a real nice flow and just a much prettier style of engraving than, it's quite a contrast actually to Saguaro. Saguaro took some of its elements from a tribal scroll design, and then also some elements found in nature. Well, one day I was out here clearing brush and looked at some dead cactus near the fence line, and something about the vein structure in the dead cactus caught my eye, and I looked at it a little closer and took out my camera and took some pictures of it, thinking this will make a real interesting background for some engraving. You know, has a nice texture and some movement with the veins and things like that in it. So I ended up incorporating that background design in this latest project I'm doing for a project we call Saguaro, like the Arizona cactus. Now it has a tribal design, but I thought that the tribal, the pointy characteristics of this engraving style kind of lended itself to the whole cactus theme, and therefore the cactus vein background works really well with it. Cabot's request on this pistol was to design something for a rock star. It just ended up with this tribal theme I came up with, and I think it was quite a surprise.
Otto.
Yes.
I have another fun project I'd like to work on, and we've previously talked about this a little bit over the phone.
Okay.
But while I'm down here, I thought I would bring you down a special set of grips, and these are in steel and hand engraved Bulino style from our good friend Lee Griffith, another fantastic engraver. And Lee is in part known for the exquisite Bulino style of engraving that he does.
Yes.
So this is something we did kind of just for fun. And it reflects an iconic cultural moment. And it was one from the Joe Rogan show, where he had Elon Musk and there was that classic dialogue and discussion. Lee made these grips. The one panel features Elon Musk in that classic image that was really well known, and Joe Rogan on the other. So what I'd like you to do is I want to develop some engraving for the gun that the grips will go on.
Right.
And for that gun, I chose to use our Icon model, in part because it's a really modern, clean, minimalist, right? So it has a very, has that right, correct feel I thought would be perfect for this. Great canvas for engraving. I'd like to have engraved on each side of the slide a little slogan or saying. On the one side, I'd like it to be engraved. Love is the answer. And that was one of the classic Elon Musk answers to a Joe Rogan question.
Okay.
And so do you have any ideas on how to work that in? Like maybe some kind of framing or...
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is to put it in a banner. Banners are a very good way to put text on a gun and have it kind of flow and add some interest. So that's always an option.
Okay, well, I like that idea, and rather than just doing it direct, are you seeing it maybe in a flowing manner with the banner?
Yeah.
Okay.
And to even add more interest, you could have the banner sort of fold back on itself, so you'd break this up into 2 lines. Love is the answer. Kind of take up more space and add visual interest to the shape itself.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we'll be limited on this side because it's interrupted by the ejection port.
Right.
Clear.
Yes.
Safe. And the other side, we're going to do something a bit more lengthy, and it's a Latin phrase.
Okay.
And this is something I picked up. You know, I love podcasts. And it's actually a phrase I heard from Jordan Peterson.
Okay.
So it'll be a Latin phrase.
All right.
And it'll be sunt tua exper. Hang on, let me get that right.
Yeah.
Sunt tua experectus moraliste.
Yeah, you might want to spell that out for me.
That's the language I'd like on the other side. And I thought, is there any chance maybe today we could start sketching it out? maybe start putting chisel to gun and have some fun. How do we not so it's not disconnected? Is there like some kind of element to add balance at the rear portion here behind the ejection port?
No. We could put another banner, part of a banner here. I don't know what you'd put in it. You might could put some designs in it, but you could continue the banner flowing back through there if you wanted to. Okay. Well, I was thinking that with this border he's got on there, it's kind of a thick and thin, what I call thick and thin, with a little scroll on top of it. I can echo some of these shapes on the banner.
Yeah, no, I think that would add great little bit of continuity.
In fact, instead of continuing the banner back here, I could just pick up some of these designs and fill in that space with it.
I like that. Maybe even pick up these cues around
no problem.
back corners for a little bit of framing.
Yep.
Hey y'all, I hope you've enjoyed this past few days that we spent down here with a unique American engraver, Otto Carter, and watching his craft, but also getting a deeper understanding of what's involved in fine American craftsmanship, such as the work that Otto Carter does for us at Cabot Guns.